The day I discovered I was pregnant, my sugar daddy's long-lost love returned from abroad. I voluntarily went to the hospital to schedule an abortion. Just as I was about to swallow the pills, a voice suddenly echoed in my mind. Mom. New number. Don't mess around. My dad is the pathetic second male lead. The female lead won't end up with him. And he also has a low sperm count. So I'm his only shot at offspring in this lifetime. You gave birth to me, so I can inherit his billion-dollar fortune in the future. And your son will take you to the peak of life. I paused for a moment, then turned and threw the pill into the trash can. I've read a lot of novels, so I'm especially receptive and believe the little milk dumpling's words without much doubt. I ducked into the car and asked excitedly, Kid, should I tell your dad I'm pregnant now? No. My dad doesn't know he's the simpering second male lead. He's currently ambitiously pursuing the heroine. If he knew I existed, he'd never allow me to be born. I thought for a moment, then suggested, then tell your grandma. Felix is so crazy in love with her. Mrs. Pei shouldn't be muddle-headed and will definitely cherish her hard-won grandson. No, I can't tell grandma now either. My grandma hates gold diggers who resort to any means to climb up the social ladder. If she hates me because of that, she might not even care about me before I'm born. Then what should I do? Leave Jing City as soon as possible, and let them know of my existence after I've grown up. If Dad doesn't marry or have children, my grandma will have no choice and will definitely accept me. But then, wouldn't you be a bastard, Mom? You're overthinking it. My dad's such a simp for the female lead that he won't marry anyone else. He'll be a lifelong bachelor. I'd be considered an illegitimate child at most. The entire Pei family, back to their 18th generation of ancestors, should be grateful to you for giving birth to me. I got it. Okay, I'll go back and say bye to your dad later. 2. According to my son, this is a novel world. The female lead is Ivy Song, the daughter of the Song family, and the male lead is Silas Lin, the prince of the Beijing Circle. Felix Pei is the male second lead in a wife-chasing crematorium plot. A devoted simp. Ivy Song has liked Felix Pei since she was a child, chasing after him wherever he went. Unfortunately, Felix Pei didn't understand love back then and only saw Ivy Song as a younger sister, so he rejected Ivy Song's confession. Heartbroken, Ivy Song went abroad and didn't return to China until 7 years later, after a long-awaited reunion. Felix Pei realized that he had unknowingly fallen in love with Ivy Song long ago, so he began to pursue her madly again. But Ivy Song was heartbroken by him, and she also had the male lead pursuing her intensely. After much deliberation, Ivy Song chose the puppy-like male lead. Felix Pei never let go, silently guarding Ivy Song for a lifetime. Isn't this a classic second male lead's funeral pyre plot? If Felix Pei weren't the father of my son, I'd definitely give it a few likes. When I returned to the villa, Felix Pei had already finished work. He stood in front of the French window, smoking, looking preoccupied. I habitually wanted to hug him, but thinking of his role as the unrequited second male lead, I suppressed the urge and politely greeted him. President Pei. Felix Pei snapped out of his thoughts, walked over, put out the cigarette in the ashtray, and then slowly spoke. There's something I need to discuss with you. My heart lurched. The moment I'd been dreading had finally arrived. Mom. Don't panic, it's something expected. I took a deep breath and smiled, asking, what is it? President Pei sat down, looked up at me, his tone and gaze as calm as they were cold. How long have we been together? My heart skipped a beat. He's going to kick me out. Although I have always been clear about my identity and position, after being so intimate with such an outstanding man for 5 years, I can't say I haven't been tempted at all. I forced a smile. It'll be 5 years in another month. Felix Pei thoughtfully nodded. So it's been that long. I sighed inwardly. Yes, it was long past time to change. To be fair, compared to the playboys in his circle, he's actually quite devoted. It took 5 whole years just to raise me, more than it would take for 10 of anyone else. I should be satisfied. Felix was silent for a moment before speaking with a meaningful tone. I thought about it. We can't always be like this. So I thought. His words were cut off by a hurried ringing of the bell. Felix Pay picked up his phone, glanced at it, and then got up to take the call on the balcony. I glanced at it. The note said, Ivy. I felt a little uncomfortable. A little like crying. But then I thought about how my son would inherit his billions in the future. And I felt a little better. Felix Pay kept his voice very low, so I couldn't hear what he was saying. But his expression was one I had never seen before, soft and gentle. About 3 minutes later, he hung up the phone and returned to the living room. I have something urgent right now. I'll continue our conversation when I get back. I nodded as normally as ever. Okay. Having finished his instructions, Felix Pay put on his coat and left in a hurry. I clearly foresaw my ending long ago. Yet I still feel upset. My son's inner voice rang out. Mom. Stop being so emo. Run before my dad finds out you're pregnant. Even though my dad isn't a legal offender like a murderer or arsonist. If he didn't want me to be born, he could have forced you to have an abortion. I immediately tensed up. My son is right. Felix Pay doesn't know he's the unrequited second male lead. He's definitely racking his brains to pursue Ivy's song right now. If he finds out I'm pregnant and messing up his plans, I'm done for. I immediately started packing valuables and drove back to my hometown overnight. Before leaving, I sent a breakup message to Felix Pay. President Pay, I've returned to City C. Thank you very much for your care over the years. I wish you all the best in the future. Felix Pay didn't reply. Probably feeling it wasn't necessary. I'm a little disappointed. It's not that he didn't try to keep me, but that he didn't give me a breakup fee, although he usually gave me a lot. Who would complain about having too little money? 3. I followed Felix Pay not out of any necessity, but purely because I'd been scared of being poor since I was a child, and I was attracted by his beauty, so I agreed to his proposition. In short, he is greedy for money and lustful. I am well aware of my own strengths and weaknesses. Since the day I followed Felix Pay, I'd been prepared to leave. So I never squandered anything. 3 years ago, I bought a high-end, fully furnished large flat in the city center of my hometown's provincial capital. And 2 years ago, I furnished it with appliances and furniture. After a cleaning lady cleaned the place, I moved in. To completely say goodbye to my past life, I threw away my original SIM card and got a new one. I knew that Felix Pay could easily track me down if he wanted to, but he was busy competing with the male lead for the female lead. So he probably didn't remember someone like me. Although my son said he would be born healthy, I still went for prenatal checkups on time just in case. The day I had my anatomy scan appointment, I was about to hand over my documents to the staff when I suddenly saw Felix Pay walking towards the ultrasound center. I was stunned for a moment and quickly turned my back. Mom, what's wrong? Every time I'm clearly emotional. My son can sense it as long as he's awake. I whispered. I saw your dad. Mom, don't panic. You're wearing a mask, so he won't recognize you easily. Just leave normally. My son was right. Not only was I wearing a mask, but I was also in casual clothes I'd never worn in front of Felix. He shouldn't recognize me easily. I steadied my nerves and slowly walked toward the entrance of the escalator. Just as I was about to reach it, my arm tightened abruptly, and I was yanked back by a tremendous force. I staggered 2 steps, leaning against the wall to steady my body, which had become rigid from excessive tension. Felix Pay's tall figure leaned forward slightly, casting me into shadow. The sense of oppression was overwhelming. What are you running for? Thinking I wouldn't recognize you just because you're wearing a mask. A mocking voice echoed above my head, and I instantly felt like crying. Mom, don't panic. Don't lose your cool. I forced a smile, trying to play it cool, not running away. Just finishing the checkup and heading home. Felix Pay sized me up, his gaze finally settling on the ultrasound request form in my hand, and asked with an unreadable tone, "Are you sick?" I quickly hid the paper behind my back. Just a minor issue. Irregular periods. Oh, really? Let me see. He said that and reached out to take the paper from my hand. Just as I was at a loss, his assistant came over and said with a grave expression, "Mr. Pay, Miss Song has acute appendicitis. The doctor says she needs surgery immediately. Felix paused slightly, then said to me through gritted teeth, "Add my contact information back," before hurriedly leaving with his assistant. Once Felix was completely out of sight, I fled the hospital as if my life depended on it. On the way home, I asked my son, "Sweetie, what do you think your dad meant when he told me to add his contact information back?" "I don't know either, Mom." "So should I add him or not?" "Of course you should. If you don't add him, he'll definitely investigate your information, and then your pregnancy won't be able to stay hidden." Alright. For although I deleted Felix Pay's contact information, I had already memorized his phone number by heart. After returning home, I added his chat ID through the phone number. About an hour later, he accepted my friend request. "Send me your address." I was dumbfounded. "Sweetheart, what does he mean by asking me to send him the address? Is he coming to find me? Looks like it's possible. What if he finds out I'm pregnant? Could he already know? Is there still time to run?" "Mom, don't panic. Just running won't help. It's only a matter of time before he finds you. Doesn't that mean we can only wait for death?" Thinking of this, I felt more grief than the death of my own heart. "Honey, don't worry. Mom won't let you leave alone." "Mom, let me tell you. The waiting list for reincarnation is now 100 years minimum, and there's no guarantee you'll even be born alive. Then forget it. Let's struggle a bit more. Don't panic yet. Judging by the way Dad looks, he probably hasn't discovered my existence. Maybe he's just here to see you. He's already by the female lead side. What's worth him looking at me for? Well, I don't know either. We'll find out when he arrives. Meet trouble as it comes, as the saying goes." Alright. Reluctantly, I sent the address to Felix. "Mom, quickly put away anything suspicious at home. Don't let Dad find out." "Fine." I quickly gathered anything at home that could reveal my pregnancy and tucked them away in the storage room, just sitting down to take a breath. The doorbell rang. He quickly got up to open the door, awkwardly greeting, "Mr. Pay, long time no see." Felix Pay's face showed no particular expression. He gave a faint nod. "I'll stay in City C for a few days. I'm not used to staying in hotels here. So I'd like to borrow a place to stay for a few days." I hesitated. Felix actually dislikes staying in hotels, even if he's staying in presidential suites. But I couldn't dare let him stay at my place. Felix, not getting an answer from me, looked at me with a heavy gaze. "Isn't it inconvenient?" "Don't refuse. The more you refuse, the more suspicious hell become. Just agree first." I forced a laugh. "No, not at all. It's perfectly convenient. Mr. Pay, please come in." I stepped aside and let Felix Pay enter, suddenly remembering that we didn't have men's slippers at home. I didn't know Mr. Pay was coming, so I didn't prepare what you need. "Please, have a seat for a moment. I'll go buy it right away and be back soon." Felix Pay didn't hesitate. "Sure." 5 When I returned home carrying toiletries, I noticed Felix Pay wasn't in the living room. I thought he had left and was about to cheer when he walked out of the storage room. My heart skipped a beat. Just as I was wondering if I should get on my knees and beg for mercy, Felix Pay commented with great seriousness, "The house is quite clean." I twitched the corner of my mouth. "Nothing to do. I clean it every day." Felix didn't say anything more, reaching out his hand toward me. "Give it to me." "Oh." I quickly handed him the plastic bag containing my toiletries. Felix Pay took out slippers, put them on, and went to the bathroom carrying the bag. He was as natural as if he were at his own home. Seeing that he was planning to stay overnight, I went to make the bed in the guest room. To be honest, I looked down on him. He's clearly pursuing the female lead. Yet he goes to live at the former caged birds who see so lacking in boundaries. No wonder he can't be the male lead. Well deserved. Felix Pay showers quickly. I had just finished making the bed when he came out wrapped in a towel. He leaned against the doorframe, raising an eyebrow and looking at me. "I'm sleeping in the guest room." My brain was slow to react, and I nodded without thinking. "Yeah, otherwise." Felix Pay's eyes darkened, though his expression showed no change. I sensed he was angry, and suddenly realized why. I didn't expect him to be so out of line. and actually think about sleeping with May felt even more contempt for him. Luckily, the heroine didn't pick him. Just as I was thinking how to get through this, he coldly asked out of the blue, "Are you hiding something from me?" I subconsciously covered my stomach, then immediately let go, laughing awkwardly. "No, I didn't." Felix Pay's expression suddenly turned dark, his sharp gaze locking onto my eyes as he took step after step toward me. "Don't you know you're terrible at lying?" I stepped back nervously until I bumped into the bedside table behind me. He pressed his hands against the wall, trapping me tightly between his arms. The overwhelming pressure made it hard for me to breathe. Found a new benefactor so quickly. I looked up, staring at him in shock. Once a man has been with a woman, he develops an inexplicable possessiveness toward her, even if their relationship has already ended. Felix Pay was clearly affected by such feelings now. I'm a bit pissed off. Although I'm lazy and enjoy comfort, not every rich guy can satisfy me. Ugly beyond belief. The old one won't do. The sick one won't do either. To be honest, although in his eyes and others' eyes, I'm just a canary he's raised. Deep down inside, I've always seen him as a gold-digging duck. To be honest, after sleeping with someone as exceptional as him, ordinary men no longer catch my eye. I shot him a glance. Do I look like someone who's that casual? The chill around Felix immediately dissipated by half, pulling me into his arms tightly, his breathing growing heavier. "Baby, I want." Before Felix Pay could say anything embarrassing, I quickly covered his mouth. No way. Even though my son was asleep now, there was no telling when he might wake up. If my son heard his lewd talk, I'd never be able to face him again. Felix pulled his hand away from mine, then looked at me with that same cold gaze as before. "Are you hiding something from me?" I've never been particularly quick-witted, and after getting pregnant, my thoughts became even slower. For a moment, I couldn't come up with a suitable excuse to fool him, and I grew flustered and anxious. "No," I blurted out. "My period is coming." Felix Pay smirked coldly. "Really? Let me see." His hand landed on my waistband. I instantly felt my scalp tingle, and in a moment of desperation, I slapped him across the face. I regretted it as soon as I hit him. "I'm sorry." Felix Pay stared at me with a gloomy expression, which made me even more scared. Just as I was wondering if I should act cute and try to gloss over it, he turned and went to the bathroom. 2 minutes later, he came out of the bathroom dressed, slammed the door, and left. The security door slammed shut, and I collapsed onto the sofa, nearly exhausted, while I breathed a sigh of relief. My heart felt even emptier. Felix Pay probably was truly angry, and he never came to see me again, which made me feel even more at ease. Yet I didn't feel happy for long. 3 days later, I received a message from a stranger. "I'll give you 5 million to abort the child." I suppressed the horror in my heart and replied to the other party, "What child? Your little tricks might fool Felix Pay, but they won't fool me. I'm telling you, Mrs. Pay despises people like you who climb to the top by any means. I advise you to get rid of the child as soon as possible, or Mrs. Pay will never let you off." I felt a chill run down my spine reading this. At that moment, my son regained consciousness and asked with concern, "Mom, what's wrong with you?" I was at a loss, so I read the anonymous message to my son. After hearing it, my son was outraged. "Mom, don't listen to his nonsense. Grandma loves me the most. She would never hurt me." My slow mind began to process. "Kid, didn't you say your grandmother wouldn't allow you to exist?" My son was speechless. He fell into a long silence, so prolonged that it made me feel a chill run through my whole body. I trusted him so much, yet he was lying to me. Anger, disappointment, and despair all surged into my heart at once. "Why did you lie to me?" My son burst into tears. "Mom, I was wrong. Grandma wouldn't hurt me, but she doesn't like you. She took me away from you as soon as I was born. You couldn't see me, and you got postpartum depression and slit your wrists in a suicide attempt. Mommy, I just don't want you to die. I want you to be with me as I grow up, and be with you forever. Mommy, don't be angry. Don't abandon me." Seeing that I was angry, My son took the initiative to confess what had been hiding from me. In the original plot, after finding out I was pregnant, I'd also gone to the hospital planning to get an abortion. But I couldn't bring myself to go through with it in the end and cancelled the procedure. I'd cautiously probed Felix Pay's stance on the baby. When I realized he didn't welcome the child, I never told him about the pregnancy and secretly scheduled another abortion. Mrs. Pay found out about my pregnancy by chance and took the initiative to seek me out, urging me to give birth to the baby. However, she looked down on me and worried I couldn't raise the child properly. So she took him away as soon as he was born. I fell into severe depression because of this and slit my wrists on the day of his 1-month-old celebration. He didn't even know I existed at first. It wasn't until he turned 7 that he accidentally overheard Felix Pay and Mrs. Pay arguing and learned I was his mother. The reason Head lied to me was that he didn't want to be separated from me, and he didn't want me to kill myself after losing him. So Head persuaded me to secretly give birth to him, planning to let Mrs. Pay know about his existence once he grew up. Mommy, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have lied to you. Will you forgive me just this once? Listening to his choked up, childish voice, my heart melted completely, and all my anger vanished into thin air. I gently stroked my belly. It's Mommy's fault. I couldn't stay by your side to watch you grow up. The pent-up emotions inside my son burst forth in an instant, and he burst into loud sobs. It's not your fault. You're the best mommy in the whole world. Tears streamed down my face in torrents. You're the best baby in the whole world too. Mommy loves you more than anything. My son and I cried for half an hour before we finally calmed down. I asked him again, sweetheart, what happened to you in the end? Did you inherit your dad's $100 billion fortune? No. I died in a car accident when I was 8. The next time I woke up, I was back in your belly, and I knew all about the plot. I was utterly stunned. You were in a car accident. It's okay, Mommy. That was a past life. I'm so happy to be with you in this lifetime. A sharp, piercing pain shot through my heart, like being stabbed by a needle. Baby, you can't leave me like that. You have to stay healthy, safe, and live a long life. Mommy, well, both stay healthy, safe, and live a long life together. Okay. I just made that vow in my heart when it was immediately broken. A message popped up from an unknown number. One should know their place. Those who don't often end up dying a terrible death. Mommy, should we tell Grandma? Yes. I had an inexplicable hunch that my death and my son's death in the previous life weren't simple accidents. They might be connected to this person who kept threatening me. I had to seek Mrs. Pay's protection even if it meant being separated from my son. Just like in my past life, my son burst into tears again, heartbroken. But Mommy, I don't want to be separated from you. Sweetheart, staying alive is the most important thing. When you grow up and become strong enough, no one will ever be able to separate us again. Mommy will wait for that day. Even though he was still young, my son knew how to prioritize what mattered. He'll grow up fast and become super strong. Then he'll make Mommy stay with me forever. I nodded, tears glistening in my eyes. Okay. I believe in you, baby. 9 After comforting my son, I sent a message to Mrs. Pay, telling her I was pregnant with Felix Pay's child and that someone was threatening me to get an abortion. I'd gotten Mrs. Pay's number from Felix Pay's phone before. I'd had a hunch and memorized it deliberately, never expecting it would actually come in handy one day. Mrs. Pay didn't reply right away. I waited anxiously for over 10 minutes before her message finally popped up. Don't act recklessly. I'll send someone to pick you up. Seeing those words, I let out a long, relieved breath and started packing my luggage. About an hour later, the doorbell rang. I walked over to answer it, but before opening the door, I glanced at the security camera feed that came with the smart lock out of habit. Outside the door stood a young woman in a property management uniform, holding something that looked like a registration form. I was about to open the door when a bad feeling suddenly washed over me, and I froze. The woman rang the doorbell twice more. When no one answered, she took out her phone and made a call. I immediately silenced my phone. The next second, the screen lit up with an incoming call. The woman called twice, then gave up. But she didn't leave right away. Two men emerged from around the corner, exchanged a few quiet words with her, and then left reluctantly. A bone-chilling coldness shot up from the soles of my feet, spreading through every inch of my body. Who on earth wanted to hurt me? Whoever it was. I couldn't stay here any longer. But I didn't dare go out rashly either. If I got kidnapped the moment I stepped outside, I wouldn't even have a chance to call for help. With no other options, I had to call Mrs. Pei to beg for help. Mrs. Pei told me to stay inside the apartment, assuring me her people would arrive soon. Half an hour later, four burly men in black suits appeared outside the door. Only after receiving Mrs. Pei's confirmation call did I go with them. As the car turned at the community gate, an unlicensed sedan sped toward us. Luckily, our driver reacted quickly enough to avoid a collision otherwise. The consequences would have been unimaginable. The other party didn't dare act too aggressively afterward and didn't try anything else. We boarded the plane smoothly and headed to Beijing. Mrs. Pei arranged for me to stay in her villa and hired a professional team to give me a full medical check. She also proposed doing an amniocentesis for a paternity test. I'd already prepared myself for this, so I accepted it calmly. Since Mrs. Pei had raised my son single-handedly in his past life, he knew exactly what she liked. He pestered me every day, teaching me how to please her. I followed his advice to the letter, and Mrs. Pei's attitude toward me did improve somewhat. However, she still refused to agree to let me raise the child myself. I had to brace myself for the worst-case scenario. Felix Pei occasionally came back to the old mansion for dinner. Mrs. Pei was worried had opposed the baby's birth, so she kept my pregnancy a secret from him. Every time he came home, she would warn me in advance to stay in my room and not come out. Fang's completely infatuated with Ivy's song. If he finds out you're pregnant, who knows what kind of trouble he'll stir up. You'll just have to put up with this temporary inconvenience. I readily expressed my understanding. I know you're doing this for the best, Mrs. Pei. Good that you understand. 2 months later, Mrs. Pei took me to get the amniocentesis test done. Once it was confirmed that the baby was indeed Felix Pei's son, her attitude toward me softened even more. Sometimes she even willingly chatted with me about parenting topics. Nevertheless, she made it crystal clear that she intended to raise her grandson personally. I didn't dare object, not to mention, I had a clear sense of my own limitations. With my current capabilities and life experience, I could never raise a qualified heir to a $100 billion fortune. Tabloid news was buzzing with stories about Felix Pei being a complete lapdog to Ivy's song. Everyone in their social circle knew about it. Mrs. Pei was absolutely furious about this but utterly helpless to do anything about it. Suddenly, I understood why Mrs. Pei was so eager to have a grandson. Chances were, she thought she'd spoiled her own son rotten and planned to start over by grooming her grandson instead. 5 months passed in the blink of an eye. One night, Felix Pei stormed into the villa in a fit of rage. I didn't have time to escape, so in a panic, I hid behind the curtains. Mom, do you know where Wei Shu is? Mrs. Pei took a sip of her coffee, looking at Felix Pei with an amused expression. How would I know where your woman is? Felix Pei pinched the bridge of his nose, looking exhausted. Mom, she's disappeared. Normally, I'd never be unable to find her. Mrs. Pei remained unflustered. Is that any of my business? Felix Pei sighed tiredly. Mom, Wei Shu's just an empty-headed trophy wife. There's no need for you to go after her. If you know where she is, please just give her back to me. Mrs. Pei shot him a glance, her tone loaded with meaning. Give her back to you for what? Felix Pei gritted his teeth, his voice laced with anger. Nothing, I just want to teach her a lesson. I clutched my belly nervously, sensing my anxiety. My son comforted me in his tiny, soft voice. Mommy, don't worry. Grandma will protect us. Mrs. Pei let out a cold laugh. I have no idea where your little mistress is. You can look for her yourself. Felix Pei was about to say something else when his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and turned to leave immediately. Once I was sure Felix Pei was G1, I stepped out from behind the curtains. Mrs. Pei said casually, no need to be nervous. Even for my grandson's sake, I'd never let him lose his temper with you. I nodded vigorously. Yes. Mrs. Pei cared deeply about her grandson. At the very least, she would ensure my safety until the baby was born. The reason was simple. Felix Pei actually suffered from oligospermia. 11 The next day, Ivy Song's half-sister, Song Cici, visited Mrs. Pei at the old house. I stayed in my room and didn't know exactly what they talked about, but they must have had a pleasant conversation, as Song Cici stayed for the entire morning before leaving. And after that day, Song Cici came over frequently. Every few days or so, Mrs. Pei clearly welcomed me with a warm attitude, and I also keenly noticed that the servants' gazes toward me had subtly changed. Feeling uneasy, I quietly asked my son, "Kid, do you know what's going on with Song Shiwei?" The child thought for a moment before speaking. It seems Aunt Shiwei likes Dad and wants to be my stepmother. But Dad doesn't agree. Did your grandma agree? The son remained silent for a moment before answering. Grandma wants Dad to marry Aunt Shiwei. My heart lurched. To be honest, I previously suspected that Ivy Song was the one secretly causing trouble. But now it seems that Song Shiwei is more likely to want to get rid of me and my son. The more I think about it, the more terrified I become. And what chilled me to the bone even more was Mrs. Pei's attitude toward Song Shiwei. Human hearts are easily changed. I was still naive, actually believing that Mrs. Pei could protect me and my son. But who else can I trust besides Mrs. Pei? It seemed no one was there except the little one in my belly. My unease grew steadily as my due date approached and Song Shiwei began visiting the old house more frequently. 1 week before my due date, Mrs. Pei finally laid her cards on the table. Wei Shu, you're a sensible person. You can't take the position of a Fang's wife. And I certainly won't let you raise my grandson. You leave after the baby is born. And they'll give you 50 million as compensation, enough to ensure a comfortable life for you. I had no choice but to agree. After all, without her protection, Song Shi could crush me like a bug with ease. Thank you, Mrs. Pei. Mrs. Pei nodded with satisfaction. I like smart people. Mrs. Pei had originally arranged an auspicious day and time for me to have a section, but perhaps due to some stimulation, I went into labor that night. After 2 hours of labor pains, my son was born smoothly. After the nurse carried my son away, the doctor in charge of the delivery approached me with a syringe. I immediately became alert. What are you doing? The doctor said nothing, only staring at me with a sinister gaze. I had no strength left, so I could only scream for help at the top of my voice. But as soon as I let out a cry, she covered my mouth and injected the medication into my body. And my consciousness began to blur. In the moment before completely losing consciousness, I vaguely saw someone rush in, but I no longer had time to discern who it was. 12 I thought I would be heading to the afterlife in line. But instead I woke up startled from the nightmare. I opened my eyes to a pale white ceiling. I stared blankly for a while before gradually coming to my senses. I'm not dead. Where's my son? I struggled to sit up, searching for my son, but only saw the empty crib. Baby. I became anxious, about to pull out the 4-needle, when Felix Pei walked in from the living room holding a baby. Our eyes met, and we were both stunned. Felix broke the silence first. I just took in for a checkup. Do you want to hold him? Yes. It wasn't until I held my sleeping son in my arms that my heart, which had been hanging in the air, truly returned to the ground. Felix Pei suddenly said, Song Shiwei has been sent abroad by the Song family. I wasn't too disappointed. With my status, I am far from enough to make the Pei family break ties with the Song family. This is Song Ziwei's cleverness. She only targets me and not my son. After Mrs. Pei laid her cards on the table, my son and I prepared for the worst. The sooner we die, the sooner we get in line. But I still decided to take a chance, secretly contacting Felix Pei and telling him that someone was trying to harm me and my son, pleading with him to protect me and my son. Felix Pei didn't believe me at the time and was very angry. I didn't think he would help me, but he came after all. I am already very grateful that he can accept the existence of his son and even save me. Thank you. Felix Pei didn't seem too satisfied with my reaction, and kept his face straight without saying a word. I looked down at my son's well-behaved and lovely sleeping face. And then I thought of the separation that would last for more than 20 years. My nose felt sore, and tears welled up in my eyes uncontrollably. I sniffed and looked up at him. "When are you taking our son away?" Felix Pay answered without thinking. "When you are discharged from the hospital. I should be discharged after tomorrow." Suddenly, I felt a strange urge to thank him. "Thank you." Felix's face showed confusion, but I wasn't in the mood to try to decipher his thoughts. "Can I ask you for a favor?" Felix Pay looked at me like I was an idiot. I didn't care about that, and quickly said, "Felix Pay, in the future, could you please pay more attention to An's mental and physical health, especially his personal safety? It's not that I'm overthinking it, but even before he was born, someone wanted to harm him. And there will definitely be people who want to harm him in the future. So," Felix Pay cut in on my incessant talking, "you leave everything to me, don't you? As a mother, take any responsibility at all." I gave a bitter smile. "I'd love to. But you have to give me a chance first." Felix Pay suddenly grew angry, apparently struck by some thought. "It was one thing when you went missing while pregnant with Anan, but now that Anan is born, can't you give it a rest?" I looked at him, at a loss. An endless sense of grievance washing over me. "Mrs. Fay asked me to leave. Didn't she tell you?" Felix Fay was taken aback. "My mom tells you to leave. So you leave. Are you my mom's woman or my woman?" I reacted, incredulously asking, "Aren't you going to tell me to get out?" Felix stared at me like I was an idiot. "When did I ever tell you to get out?" I was speechless. Although he never actually said those words directly. But wasn't it obvious? The day Miss Song came back. "Didn't you say that we couldn't keep up that kind of relationship?" Felix Pay gritted his teeth in frustration. "Idiot. I meant for you to get hired, not kicked out. Can you stop daydreaming all the time?" This answer was something I hadn't anticipated. My intuition told me that Felix Pay wasn't lying to me, and he had no reason to lie to me either. Actually, it's not all my imagination. My son made some contributions too. Although my son was giving random directions and making a chaotic mess of things, I at least survived. I explained, half truthfully and half not. "I thought you were going to pursue Miss Song, and that it would be more dignified to leave on my own. So I returned to Sea City. As for the son, I couldn't bring myself to abort him. I originally wanted to secretly give birth and raise him. But later, I discovered someone was trying to harm me. So I had no choice but to seek lattice protection." Felix Pay laughed bitterly in rage. "Can't I protect you?" I felt even more uneasy. "I thought you didn't want a son." Felix Pay was so furious he nearly cursed. "For me, having a child is like burning incense to thank the heavens. Am I crazy to not want the baby?" I gave an awkward smile. 13 I spent ages going through the accounts with Felix Pay before I managed to sort things out. He said he had never liked Ivy Song. The reason he was so close to the other party was because Ivy Song had asked him for help. Ivy Song's situation in the Song family is very bad. Her father favored his second wife and their children, neglecting her completely. Her stepmother and half-siblings had been scheming to ruin her. Ivy Song was, so she could only turn to him for help, borrowing his influence to intimidate the Song family. The day I returned from my prenatal checkup, he said he wanted to talk to Menet to tell me to leave, but because he was afraid I'd misunderstand, he wanted to officially confirm our relationship in private first, then make it public once Ivy Song had established her position. But suddenly, Ivy Song encountered an emergency, and he had to go to her aid. He had planned to wait until I came back to talk, but I ended up leaving without a word and even blocked him. He was very angry at the time. And with so many things going on, he didn't come to see me immediately. When he found out I had returned to City C, and happened to learn that Ivy Song was going to City C for a concert, he came up with the excuse of accompanying Ivy Song to go to City C. The day we met at the hospital, he came to see me in the evening, intending to give both of us a chance to save face. But unexpectedly I was very resistant to him. He mistakenly believed I had found another patron. So in a fit of anger, he left. Afterward, He calmed down and looked for me again. But I had already come to Beijing by then. After that, he kept looking for me, but couldn't find me, until I took the initiative to message him. Felix Pei's explanation differed somewhat from the plot my son told me, but I don't think my son is lying to me. After all, he's only a 7 or 8-year-old child with limited comprehension. Besides, I always feel that Felix Pei is suspected of breaking free from the constraints of the plot. Anyway, it's best that he's not obsessed with Ivy Song. Speaking of Ivy Song, just a quick mention. Ivy Song's father was a Phoenix man who, once he had gained power, killed his first wife in order to take over the company and then brazenly married his first love. With the help of Felix Pei and the male lead Silas Lin, Ivy Song regains control of the company and sends her abusive father and stepmother to prison. 6 months later, Felix Pei sued Song Shiwei for the case of hiring someone to murder me. Song Shiwei was extradited back to China and received legal punishment. Mrs. Pei was very dissatisfied about Felix Pei marrying me, but Felix Pei insisted, and with the support of their son, Mrs. Pei reluctantly agreed in the end. On the day of my son's first birthday, I married him. People's hearts are fickle, and I can't guarantee whether Felix Pei will remain faithful in the future. But his low sperm count is an unchangeable fact. As long as I think that my son is my only heir, I'm content. He. End of the whole text.